Good afternoon. Okay, as a former teacher and coach, those of you who know me know this very well. I'd like to have a nice, loud good afternoon right back, so let's try it one more time. Good afternoon. So much better. I'm not sure why y'all are here, but I think the aspect of being here for this very, very special occasion, to see Dayton on this world stage, so many people across this whole universe is looking at you right now. And we are so happy for all the great work that's been done, all the partnerships that have been done to create this great, great opportunity for the city of Dayton. So before I go any further, behind me is a really, really large, gorgeous table. Gorgeous table. So this table, in this shape, used to belong to NCR. When NCR left, they gave the table to Mendelssohn's. Mendelssohn's then gave the table to Universal Credit Union. They did some work with it as well to do some restoration work as well. Additionally, this was loaned to us for this particular purpose, just for this purpose. The shape of the table is extremely, extremely important. Many of you may remember, going way back, the time that the Vietnam War was ending. The last 6 months, they decided to have peace talks, but they could not decide on the shape of the table. Ultimately, I think they had like a oval table to make sure that no individual or no group, no country had a particular advantage as they went through that process. This table symbolizes this roundness, this shape, that everyone sits here in equal standing to make sure we communicate and talk about the issues of the world and how we can maintain and establish peace so everyone can live in that space to be their best selves and to be able to support others in the same space as well. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to introduce you to someone that needs no introduction. You all know him very well. I've known him for quite a while myself. I was a teacher when he was at Belmont High School, his junior and senior years. So again, as I mentioned last week, we were talking to each other in Washington, D.C., that he will say some great things. He will say some good things. Give me credit for the great things, all right? And then you can do what you want with the good ones. So without further ado, our major, strong, dedicated Daytonian, former mayor of the great city of Dayton, I bring to you Congressman Michael Turner.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for welcoming us, and thank you for your leadership that has helped bring the NATO Parliamentary Assembly here. And I do want to note that even though you were part of the faculty at my high school, you did not give me detention. That is very important to note. Well, good afternoon, and I want to thank you all for being here for what is truly a historic occasion as the NATO Parliamentary Assembly is welcomed here for their first session to take place on American soil within 20 years. They have not had a session in the United States in 20 years, and it is my honor to welcome them to my hometown. It is also a tremendous honor for me to welcome Marcos Pistrello, the President of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, Roxandra Popa, the Secretary General of NATO Parliamentary Assembly, to Dayton as we celebrate, as the Mayor was saying, the 30th anniversary of the Dayton Peace Accords. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize the key leaders who helped make this possible. Of course, Dayton Mayor Jeffrey Mims, the Dayton Live President and CEO Gabrielle Van Alst. Thank you for being here and for your hosting this and for all of your leadership. CareSource President Erhard Preitauer. Erhard, I see you here. Dayton Chamber President and CEO Chris Kirshner. Chris, where are you? Thank you, and thank you for all you've done, and you'll be hosting us again later at the Dayton Art Institute. Destination Dayton President and CEO Jackie Powell. Jackie, you and I talked about this for years, and you helped us many times scope this out and try to plan what this might be. And the Dow Dayton Partnership Executive Director Katie Meyer, thank you. We have put together this at a time where it is a holiday where we are taking over downtown. This is NATO PA, Main Street USA. We're going to be giving them a sense of our community. And I want to thank all of the Dayton 2025 partners who have assisted us in pulling this together, including the Dayton City Commission and, of course, the county commissioners, all of which have contributed to our efforts to pull this together. As we have this here, we cannot separate this from the significance of that we are coming together for the 30th anniversary of the Dayton Peace Accords. What occurred here 30 years ago at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was a recognition of the fact that every day there are men and women who come together at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base who have national and international significance and a contribution to international and national security. And they were called upon, the significance of their work was called upon to focus in the Balkans to help bring about peace in a region that was being torn apart by war. The United States stepped in with our NATO partners, and the leadership of the Balkans came together here, and the Dayton Peace Accords was born, and a tentative peace that has held together for 30 years, although in a still fragile, structure. One that it bears our coming together in this format to both talk in a prospective way, what do we have to do to make certain that we can ensure that peace can hold, but also in a retrospect. How do we end war, and how do we take that and look at Ukraine and other areas of conflict and look at what our responsibilities are and what the United States' responsibility can be, and how do we as NATO partners come together as allies and look to establishing democratic institutions that can hold and that can bring peace. Miami Valley, I think, has a very strong place in that, and we're certainly going to be showcasing that today. It's going to be my honor over the next 4 days to show off Dayton, my hometown, to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly delegates. We're going to be showing them the legacy not only of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and the Dayton Peace Accords, but also the aviation history here, the history of the Wright brothers, the history of flight. They're going to be seeing the aviation heritage sites that are here and our downtown. But already in talking to the delegates that are here, I'm hearing from them their sense of the friendliness of our community, and that is the friendliness of the Midwest. And we're certainly going to be showing them that hospitality as they are here the next 4 days, and we're going to be welcoming them with open arms into our community, Dayton, Ohio, a world-class community that is going to be their host for the next 4 days. And it's my honor now to recognize the President of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, who will be leading us over the next 4 days at the convening the legislative sessions that are here. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mike. We are waiting for that show, and I think that the smile on your face shows the confidence that the show will be good. Well, good afternoon, all of you. Let me start by thanking our hosts, Congressman Turner and Mayor Mims, for inviting the Assembly for Dayton. I know that the whole Dayton community has been involved in preparations, and I want to thank everyone for making us feel so welcome. We look forward for enjoying the famous Midwest hospitality and to experience Dayton's lasting contributions to the history of humanity, from the Wright brothers' inventions to the signing of the Dayton Peace Accords. Our meeting will bring together over 500 participants, including some 240 members of parliament. The NATO Parliamentary Assembly celebrates this year 70 years. It was created in 1955 by members of parliament from both sides of the Atlantic who were determined to ensure that the voices of legislators and through them those of the people were heard. Today, the Assembly is made up of 281 members of Parliament representing the 32 member states of NATO, joined by another 100 members of Parliament from 25 partners of countries that are not members of NATO. Through meetings like the one here in Dayton, The Assembly fosters transatlantic dialogue and cohesion, provides an essential link between NATO and the parliaments and citizens of NATO nations, helps shape NATO policies and explain the alliance's fundamental role as the cornerstone of Europe and North America's security. Further, NATO's foundational values, democracy, individual freedom, and the rule of law, and builds partnerships through parliamentary diplomacy. The Assembly influence is only as great as its members' commitment to delivering on its aims and mission, and within the Assembly, as well as back home, in their capitals, districts, and communities. In this regard, I want to pay tribute to Congressman Turner and to his colleagues on the strong bipartisan US delegation to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. They are extraordinary leaders within the NATO PA, working to ensure that through NATO, North America and Europe are stronger and better able to defend our citizens and our democratic way of life. Let me now say a few words about what is on our agenda for these days. First, we will, of course, commemorate the 30 years of the signing of the Dayton Peace Accords, which brought an end to one of the most devastating conflicts on European soil since the Second World War. The Dayton Accords were made possible through a combination of resolute action and determined diplomacy. US leadership was critical, as was transatlantic unity. NATO's role and involvement were also decisive. The Dayton Peace Accords remain today an essential foundation for stability on Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Western Balkans. Over the course of this weekend, we will also adopt our recommendations for the upcoming summits of NATO heads of state and government, which will be held in the Netherlands in just 5 weeks. The summit must strengthen and rebalance NATO so that it remains the essential bulwark keeping the citizens of Europe and North America safe. To do this, first, we must shift the transatlantic burden and responsibilities within NATO, adopt a new defense spending target well beyond 2% of GDP, urgently develop our industrial base, and take back the lead in new technologies. Second, we must increase our resilience and better counterattacks against the foundations of our societies and against the rules-based international order by autocrats sitting in Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, or elsewhere. The summit must showcase our unity and resolve. The third and last main theme of this session is Ukraine. We will reaffirm our Assembly's unwavering support for Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, right to self-defense and self-determination, including NATO membership. We support all efforts to bring the war to an end. We commend the United States leadership and commend Ukraine for demonstrating time and again its full commitment. The United States can count on its allies to work together, hand in hand, and with Ukraine to build a just and lasting peace. The only road to peace is through strength, because how this war ends will define the world we and our children live in. The outcome of any negotiation will set a precedent for global security. Thank you.
I believe at this time we're supposed to take some questions. A few? Yes.
Congressman, this also comes at a time when there's obviously tension between NATO and the United States. How do you see this assembly potentially helping some of that?
I think what's important in the dialogue is that the members of NATO have begun to, as you just heard from our president, articulate clearly both their full commitment to achieving the Wales commitment of the prior to commitment, 2% budgetary expenditure commitment, and even going beyond, and an understanding of an expenditure level that where they're funding their own defense and the United States also providing a full commitment to NATO. You know, NATO never was an issue of the United States providing a security guarantee to Europe. It was always all nations having a mutual guarantee to each other. Unfortunately evolved into nations in Europe underfunding their own security. And we're now seeing nations in Europe coming back up to understanding that obligation as Russia's aggression has begun to directly threaten them. That's a dialogue that has to happen. I don't think that's a tension between the United States and NATO or a tension between the United States and our European partners. I think that's a tension between our European partners and NATO and Russia. And that's where that dialogue needs to be.
Congressman, the president recently essentially said he's throwing up his hands, that the situation in Ukraine is political, not our war. How do you accomplish the third goal of that summit without stronger support from the White House?
Well, I don't think he actually said that. I mean, I think there are reports of that. I don't think you have this president actually saying that. The president actually has made a full commitment to Ukraine and a full commitment to bringing peace to this conflict. I mean, it's a passion of his. When he speaks of the conflict, he speaks of the loss of life, of the travesty of this war. I think we all understand that this needs to come to an end. The loss of life, the risk to Europe, the risk to Ukraine. What needs to happen is that this war needs to end and a sovereign, democratic, free Ukraine needs to be the result. And that needs to be achieved through Europe, NATO, and the United States joining together and ensuring a strong Ukraine and a very motivated Russia to come to the bargaining table, and I think we're going to see that. Yes?
When you come back to forcing Ukraine to lose some territory, Crimea is a part of Ukraine, very open.
I don't think that's an accurate characterization, first off, and I think we have to go through the process of negotiations. You have to also understand that even at the beginning of Trump 1, at the beginning of his very first term, Russia already occupied Crimea, and they occupied Crimea with during Obama's presidency without a response from the United States at all, and without the United States providing any lethal weapons. The first lethal weapons were provided during Trump's first term in response to congressional action authorizing lethal weapons that were taken over the objection of the Obama administration, but during Obama's first term. Remember, the U.S. Congress invited President Poroshenko to address a joint session of Congress over really the objection of President Obama when he was not providing lethal weapons in response to Russia's first invasion of Ukraine that resulted in the loss of Crimea, where Poroshenko famously stood at the same podium where the President of the United States gives the State of the Union, and he said, "I cannot win a war with blankets," and implored the United States and Europe, and at that point, Merkel and Europe were not responding either in providing aid to Ukraine. It is that change in policy that occurred during Trump 1, both in Europe and the United States, that was the correct change in policy, that gives Ukraine today the leverage that gives us the opportunity to bring an end to this war today. You've asked a question, and I do think, by the way, it's an opportunity for everyone. I think it is an opportunity at this point for everyone to ask a question of the President of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. Does anyone have a question of the President?
I just wanted to get his perspective on.
Great, excellent. Let's do that.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just your perspective on the.
On the first question, yeah, I get that. Well, I think that there is no question that the American administration has initiated a change in tone, approach, and even in policies, including in its relation with individual allies. But this requires all of us to adapt, to change, and to react. But at the same time, the US administration message regarding NATO has been consistent. And we should be aware of that. And what seems to us is that the administration wants a stronger NATO. And but it wants also a fairer NATO, in which Europe and Canada needs to step up. And we want the same. All of us want a stronger NATO, and we all are conscious that we need all of us to step up. And that was, it was determined in 2014 to achieve a goal of 2% of defense spending in 2024. 2/3 of the allies already fulfilled that objective. In 2024, they get to the objective. The Hague Summit will probably need to settle a new framework of capability targets to each one of the countries, and that will probably cost a lot more.
Secretary, what are your concerns about Russian troop movements to Finland?
Well, I think all of us are concerned with the threat of Russia, and that also shows that when President Putin declares that he wants to start peace negotiations, all the signs, all the moves he makes are on the contrary side.
I actually have two questions. My first one, after the shooting and unfortunate murder of two Israeli individuals in Washington, how do you think that's going to affect the tone of the NATO talks this weekend in Dayton?
Well, what I can say about that, it's simply that all attacks on diplomatic personnel are an assault to the very principles of dialogue, of international cooperation, and must be drastically condemned.
And my second question, what do you believe is the role of women at peace tables, in peace negotiations globally? Should that be advocated more or less?
I hope the role of women in the issues you mentioned is the same as men. Please.
It's about Bosnia and NATO, two topics here. Will NATO be guaranteed for peace in Bosnia and Herzegovina? We have a very fragile situation over there, as according to the Turner said, it's a little bit shaky over there, even security situation.
Well, NATO, it was a guarantee in the past. NATO was fundamental on the Dayton peace accords that put an end to the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and NATO is still relevant on the kept of the peace in that area of Europe, and I think that NATO is, as always has been, able to respond to all the threats that are coming to the Euro-Atlantic region. So probably NATO will have a role, will keep the role on sustaining the peace on the region, as fragile as it can become. No more questions? Yes, sir.
A quick question for the mayor.
Of course.
Can you talk for a minute about the security and the security preparations? I mean, we're walking around and seeing 10 different departments represented from around the state.
Yes.
How secure and how much work went into making this area secure?
Yeah, first of all, it is a signal of the collaboration that we have with our peace forces that are around the region. So clearly you said it's not just Dayton, but it's all those police forces, of course, led by our Chief Axel and Deputy Chief Henderson. Please stand. I want people to see you guys as well. So they have been coordinating. Thank you. So they've been coordinating that entire effort, if you will. The aspect of some of the tragedies that we've experienced over the last maybe 7 to 8 years ago, a tornado, KKK visit, shooting in the Oregon District. The work that we have done on a team-wide basis, on a collaborative basis, of how we work together has been very, very special for us. Additionally, last year in Springfield had some challenges as well. And so we were able to lend some of our forces in Dayton, as well as Springfield and others, to work with them to help them get through the challenges that they had in that space as well. The aspect of what you see with so many of the barriers, the fences, all those things are designed because this is not, fortunately, our first rodeo in terms of doing this work, but all designed to keep people safe. That's a major issue for us. It's a major issue for all the visitors that we have as well. And when you look at the fencing, you look at the barriers, you look at the type of routing system that we have, we've also created those who maybe not agree with us being here. So we have a space for them to have their legal and rightful place for their protests. So all those things have been taken into consideration, and I'm really proud of the great work that they've been able to do. Thank you for your question.
It was just a federation. As a journalist, I'm so happy to be here because people in this town are so happy. Always smiling, always nice, very well.
Okay, thank you. That's a great way to end, and I hope someone captured your statement, okay, about how friendly our people are in the city of Dayton. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.